The Warlord's monster army bowed, because a human held the leash. The Galactic Council had seen many horrors in their 1,000-year history, but nothing quite like the footage streaming from the battlefields of Kepler 442b. Warlord Thaxion's monster army, creatures so twisted and nightmarish that entire star systems had surrendered rather than face them, knelt in perfect formation before a single human. Commander Elena Vasquez stood amid the carnage, her tactical suit splattered with alien blood, while behind her, the most feared army in 3 sectors waited like obedient pets. The sight defied every military doctrine, every xenobiological study, and every assumption the galaxy had made about humanity's place in the cosmic hierarchy. 3 hours earlier, the situation had been vastly different. Captain Jorik of the Andromedan Defense Fleet had watched his scanners with growing dread as Thaxion's armada approached. The Warlord's reputation preceded him, a conqueror who bred abominations in his bioforges, creatures that combined the worst aspects of a dozen predatory species. His ravagers stood 12 feet tall with crystalline claws that could slice through starship hulls. His mindbreakers could shatter sentient consciousness with their psychic screams. His devourers consumed everything organic in their path, growing larger and more vicious with each meal. "Sir," his communications officer had stammered, "the human vessel is requesting permission to deploy ground forces." Jorik's 4 eyes had blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme confusion among his people. The human ship was a small research vessel, barely armed, carrying a crew of 23 scientists and a single military advisor. "Tell them to maintain safe distance. This isn't their fight." But Elena Vasquez had already launched her shuttle. She had landed alone on Kepler 442b's rust-colored surface, stepping out into the toxic atmosphere that would have killed most species within minutes. Her suit's environmental systems hummed quietly as she walked toward the advancing horde of monsters that had already torn through 2 defensive lines of seasoned Andromedan warriors. The first ravager to reach her was a magnificent specimen, evolution twisted into a weapon of pure destruction. Its crystalline claws gleamed like captured starlight, its multiple rows of teeth designed to tear through any known armor. It lunged at her with the force of a small spacecraft. Elena caught it by the throat. The creature, which had never known defeat, which had been bred specifically to know no fear, suddenly found itself suspended 3 feet off the ground by a human female who stood barely 5.5 feet tall. Its struggles grew more frantic as Elena's grip tightened, her enhanced strength, a standard modification among human military personnel, far exceeding what the creature's creators had planned for. "Bad dog," she said calmly, and threw the ravager 50 meters into a cluster of its fellows. What happened next would be debated in xenobiological journals for centuries. The monsters stopped their advance. Every single one of them, ravagers, mind-breakers, devourers, and a dozen other nightmare species, suddenly turned their attention to the small human who had just manhandled their alpha. Elena began to walk forward. The first lesson every human child learned about animal behavior was dominance. On Earth, humanity had spent millennia domesticating everything from wolves to water buffalo, learning that beneath all the teeth and claws and primal fury, most predators understood one simple concept. The pack had a hierarchy, and that hierarchy was established through strength. Thaxion's bioengineers had created the perfect predators, but they had made one critical error. They had based their designs on successful predatory species from across the galaxy, incorporating the aggressive instincts that made those creatures effective hunters. What they hadn't realized was that humans had spent 50,000 years learning to dominate those exact same instincts. Elena's movements were precise, calculated. She didn't run, didn't show fear, didn't make any gesture that could be interpreted as submission. When a mindbreaker attempted its psychic assault, she weathered the mental attack with the same stoic determination that had allowed her ancestors to stare down saber-toothed cats. When a devourer attempted to engulf her, she sidestepped with the casual grace of someone who had spent years dodging Earth's apex predators during survival training. One by one, the monsters began to lower their heads. It wasn't magic. It wasn't some mystical human power. It was simply the recognition that this small bipedal creature possessed something they had been engineered to respect: absolute, unshakable dominance. Elena wasn't just unafraid of them, she was demonstrably more dangerous than they were. By the time Thaxion himself emerged from his command vessel, his entire army had arranged itself in neat rows behind the human. The Warlord, a massive insectoid creature whose exoskeleton was scarred from 100 battles, found himself facing not his monsters, but the quiet confidence of a species that had clawed its way to the top of the food chain on one of the galaxy's most hostile worlds. "Your pets are well trained," Elena said, scratching behind what might have been the ear of a nearby ravager. The creature leaned into her touch like an earth dog seeking affection. "But they need better leadership." Thaxion's mandibles clicked in what might have been rage or confusion. "Impossible. They are programmed to obey only—" "You made them predators," Elena interrupted. "But predators follow the alpha. Always have, always will." She gestured toward the orderly ranks of creatures behind her. "And I'm alpha now." The battle ended without another shot being fired. Thaxion's empire crumbled as word spread through the galaxy. His unstoppable monster army had been defeated not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by a human who understood that at the end of the day, monsters were just animals that had never met a proper trainer. The Galactic Council would later add a new entry to their xenobiological database: humans. Approach with extreme caution. Known to domesticate literally anything. Elena, meanwhile, had already started teaching her new pets to sit, stay, and play fetch with starship debris. After all, a good dog trainer never stopped learning new tricks.